Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back, Matthew, Watty's channel. Back in the game room for another episode of the xoxcustomsbyrandomtreasures exclusive tournament. Happy Friday, I guess. So I guess when I post this, it'll be tomorrow, Saturday. So happy Friday for me. Dang, I just realized, like, it's only 16 more days until Christmas, and I absolutely love Christmas, and I still have not set up my Christmas tree, and I really need to get on it, because if I don't set it up in the next few days, I'm probably not going to set it up at all. And when I was home in 2017, my wife and I, we drove from Texas as we permanently moved to Kentucky, and we had to spend Christmas in one of the hotels, I think in like Arkansas or something. And it really sucked being home and not deployed for Christmas and not being able to enjoy a real Christmas, Christmas dinner, enjoying the Christmas tree, the lights, presents, everything. So I kind of feel like as an adult, though, Christmas just isn't the same as it was for as being a child, because you know what? Every day is technically Christmas, because you work, you earn an income, you can pay for your own presents or whatnot. So, birthdays and even Easter, because my mom, she used to always like put like little gifts, toys and whatnot in our Easter baskets. So, birthdays, Easter, Christmas, it just doesn't have the same meaning that it once did from childhood. That's a shame. But guys, getting back into the third round of the XOX Customs figure tournament. Just kind of recap what we looked at in round 2. And just so you know who is going to be participating here in the third round, we do have 11 finalists. So in round 2, Butch Reed defeated Mr. Perfect. Smash defeated Alpha. Brother Love defeated Razor Ramon, and Arn Anderson defeated Talia Blanchard. In the next video that I actually posted, Barbarian defeated Sika, and so Dusty Rhodes defeated Terry Taylor, and Jerry Lawler defeated Dina Bravo. And once again, in round 2-3, for the video that posted, Abdullah the Butcher defeated Legion of Doom Hawk. Barry Windham defeated Demolition Axe. Sid Vicious defeated Ultimate Warrior. And Zeus defeated Legion of Doom Animal. And to me, I think that video was so extremely difficult. Just for the sake that both Legion of Doom characters were removed from tournament. If at least one of them progressed into round 3. I always say, I don't care how long a tournament is. If a tournament is 5 rounds, 7 rounds, 1,000 rounds, okay, maybe too much of an exaggeration, but 5 rounds, 6 rounds, 7 rounds, your basic number. I think if a figure that make it into round 3 really show you your top-notch action figures. And so when you see here figures eliminated in the first round, second round, it's like, the first round, moving out of round 1 is kind of like, your so-so figures. Nothing super flashy. Moving out of round 2 says more of, again, your top-notch figures. And then, of course, once you get in round 4 and later, it really shows you your far superior figures. And I do think Hawk and Animal are most definitely the cream of the crop, or at least, among the cream of the crop figures for Ram Treasures. So, but with those 11 guys, I have no clue who is going to win this tournament. Theoretically, I want to say, if I was a betting man, I want to say Sid Vicious, but how can I do that? Butch Reed is still an incredible figure, right? Barbarian, I think, is still going to go really far. And, sorry guys, gotta pause. Excuse me. Had to sneeze. Didn't want to sneeze on the computer. Or sneeze on camera. Dusty Rhodes, I still think is incredible. Jerry Lawler, one of my favorites. I think this last one is going to be a really fun to kind of come out. Find out who's going to come out on top. But 11 contestants, 6 men are going to move forward to round 4. And let's start our drawing. Alright, so first matchup is going to feature Demolition Smash as he squares off against Abdullah the Butcher. I don't know, maybe it's because I kept filming the same videos over and over again, but I kind of feel like the last 4 videos I made, or the last 4 out of 5 videos I made, something like that, Abdullah the Butcher keeps getting drawn. Next matchup is going to be Sid Vicious, and he is going to do battle against... I was very leery of this. Sid Vicious versus Butch Reed. I honestly thought that both of these guys were going to be the final 6, so it just goes to show you. I'm starting to really hate this random drawing because you just never know who's going to come up next. Alright, Barry Windham, and he will square off. So Barry Windham squares off against Brother Love. Yeah, that's a good matchup. Is Brother Love a final 6 guy? Maybe. We'll see how that one plays out. I kind of have a feeling I know where to go on that one, but... Alright, so far we got 2, 3, 4. And we got 5 matches. So 5 men remaining. That means, you know what? I can actually get this done in one video. I don't have to stretch this out to 2 videos. So I'll just do your 4 regular one-on-one battles, and then the last 3 will be the 5-man, will be the 5th match. So based on that, Barbarian will do battle against Dusty Rhodes. Here's another one that's really going to get me, because I have absolutely no clue. So, these last 3 guys remaining, I will select 2 to move forward. They include Arn Anderson, Jerry Lawler, and Zeus. Alright, so... guys, I'm going to pause and get ready to pull those figures off the shelf. And we will begin in a split second. Alright, everybody. So, with 5 matchups, and especially with the last matchup being a 3-man matchup, this is probably going to be a little bit longer video. 40 minutes, 45, 50, I'm not sure. But we'll see what happens. First matchup we said was Demolition Smash, as he squares off against Abdullah the Butcher. So, this is the tough one about this particular battle, starting things off. So, Smash himself, as I've already stated in the past, Demolition in of itself is probably my number 3 all-time favorite tag team. So, you know, your number 1 tag team for me, it kind of battles back and forth between Legion of Doom and the Rockers. I love that the Legion of Doom were like this massive powerhouse tag team, where the Rockers were more like, you know, specialists, you know, in their field type of deal. And you really couldn't go wrong with either tag team. Incredible talents both ways. And that leaves, you know, Demolition sitting at a comfortable number 3. And I don't know, maybe, I've always said like maybe Natural Disasters, because I love the big guys, probably be number 4. I really never broken it down any further than that, so I really couldn't say, you know, who number 5 and all that would be. Or theoretically, everybody gets pushed back, and Mega Powers with Hogan and Savage could be number 1. I just never consider Hogan and Savage to be a legitimate tag team. You know, when I think tag teams, Demolition, Legion of Doom, guys like that really stands out. natural disasters, they didn't have the most longest tenured tag team. I mean, Bushwhackers spent 4 decades together, so. But, I mean, still, I love the fact that they were these powerhouse teams. And, authentic heavyweight or tag team champions. Guys you could look at and be like, yeah, they deserve the belts. You look at something like, I don't know, who was it? Jeff Jarrett and Owen Hart. I think they were supposed to battle for the championship or tag team belts. And I don't remember if they won it or not. I know Owen Hart definitely won it multiple times with Yokozuna, but. And we look back at that day, that's when Owen Hart was supposed to become Intercontinental Champion. And then, because of his accident, Jeff Jarrett ended up getting the belt. So, there's certain folks I just don't think deserve, a kind of push as a tag team champion, Intercontinental Champion, Heavyweight Champion. Demolition, incredible tag teams. I really love the whole Freebird deal with Demolition. Axe and Smash alone were sensational. The overall look of the team was incredible, and I absolutely love that when you get that third member in, they just meshed so well together. And with the Freebird rule, which I always think should be a more predominant rule in wrestling. Let's say Axe and Smash win the belts, and you're going up against Legion of Doom. You can have Smash and Crush defend the belts. As long as, 2 members of the team are defending, you're good. So, the interesting thing I find with Demolition, I've talked about this in the past, and I'm trying to remember which videos I was talking about. It may have been during the Rumco tournament, but I don't think so. Maybe the tag team tournament? I don't know. But anyways, so we all know Road Warriors were like the major powerhouse tag team of the 1980s because of how they dressed, the face paint, all that. They were someone that everyone gravitated towards. They were so successful in the AWA, and you're going over like Japan and whatnot. And so Vince McMahon and the WWF could not get the Road Warriors to join their program. So what happens? They ended up creating Demolition. Demolition is supposed to be the spin-off or the copycat of the Road Warriors. Come out in leather, come out with face paint. You've got this brute force tag team. Absolutely amazing. And the funny thing about it is, by the time the Road Warriors / Legion of Doom finally joined WWF later on, fans didn't actually love Legion of Doom as much as you would imagine. For the simple fact is, they thought Legion of Doom was a ripoff of Demolition, who were a ripoff of Legion of Doom. So, Smash, as I said before, I think the original Smash was Moondog Rex, and then later on we got the Axe and Smash that we all know and love. And of course, later on he became Repo Man. I just can't imagine being a child and knowing who these different guys portrayed. A lot of time, I didn't even know these guys were portraying other characters until I started collecting and started kind of like learning about collections and wrestlers and stuff like that. So if I'm sitting down and I'm having a tag team match and maybe I want to put like Repo Man together, and I mentioned IRS together. I mean, it could be anybody. I just chose those two. I think they fit well together. Going against Demolition, it would be kind of odd to see Smash and Repo Man in the match at the same time. So I will always kind of look at them as completely different people, for the sake of that argument and whatnot. Smash, I love the figure. We all know this. His rubber sucks, which destroys the overall figure for me. Plus, coupled with the horrible, Jesse Ventura pose. But I always keep him in my top 5. Why? Because he has such an incredible look. His face paint is so fantastic. This is the Smash I know and love. Keeping like the little blue knee pads underneath the black knee pads. Yeah, we've seen that as well. Pose is everything to me. And I want to say, I want to word it in a way that kind of makes sense, because I want to say that pose is everything to me, and pose doesn't mean anything. And, well, what exactly do I mean? Pose is always the first thing I gravitate towards, because that fighting pose is what makes an action figure, and what makes it enjoyable. But at the same time, I have this figure at one point listed like number 3 or 4 out of like 25 figures at one point when I only had 25 figures. And how can someone with such a bad pose be rated so high? Nostalgia, for starters. Demolition were absolute killer. The overall look of the figure was incredible. I still think that Smash is a bona fide champion of this tournament. Now, I've been stating throughout this entire tournament that there were probably 6 to 8 figures that I really felt like had a solid chance, not just going to the semifinals or even the finals, but winning the whole thing. Smash most certainly is one of those characters. Axe is no longer in this tournament, and I do think Smash would have defeated Axe anyways, so it's nice that we were able to keep this guy part of it. Abdullah the Butcher. This is one of those figures that, in 2023, I think this was the very first figure I bought in 2023. And I bought him and I bought Lex Luger together because I kind of feel like if I'm going to buy one figure, I might as well buy 2 of them. And I still needed the Lex Luger Galoob 2-up, so. And I think this was like the first time I bought a figure from Ram Treasures. So I got him in February. And, it was like Saturday morning or something, Thursday morning, whatever it was. And it was like 7 a.m. I looked at Etsy and I saw that this figure was up. When I bought him immediately. Not only do I love Abdullah Butcher, I think even as psychotic as he was, I think he's one of the most intriguing gimmicks out there. And I don't know if you can even call him a gimmick. I mean, the whole stabbing people with forks, I mean, that's unusual. So, I mean, that oddness is absolutely what I covet. I always crave uniqueness and originality, and this is one of the most original personalities you're ever going to find. And kind of talking about in the last video, with some of the way that, the pants sits on his body, this figure is starting to mean so much more than I could ever imagine. And a fantastic overall look. Some guys don't like it. I'll give them that. But me personally, I love the glossiness of the figure. I think that stuff really makes the figure pop and whatnot. So I think Virgil looks better. Zeus definitely looks better. And Abdullah the Butcher. I love the fact that they really shine. So I have obviously far more history and knowledge of Smash. Either even as Smash or as Repo Man, it doesn't even matter. But the character itself, the overall design and look. This is a simple figure with pants and shoes. And with these overall vest and everything on this figure, I'm going to shock the world. And I've done a few shocking moves in the past, and I think I've got to continue the shock. I think I'm going to go with Abdullah the Butcher on this one. And I think if it comes down to it, I might like this one better, maybe. But the last of these figures, they're all incredible. And to be honest, as I look at every single one of these, I honestly have no qualms with any of these figures winning. So, I don't know, there's just something so special about this particular figure. And yeah, you think about your King Kong Bundy and your Ken Patera and your one-man gang. These figures that have a lot of depth, a lot of bulk to them, they're some of my favorites. And that has something to do with it. I like the rubber on here so much better. A lot more hard rubber than what you get out of this figure. So it's not just fighting pose. It's not just color scheme and design. I do think with Ram Treasure figures, I am including the actual make of the rubber. Some figures they did really well with really nice hard rubber, and others they just have like really shoddy rubber. I don't think this is the worst rubber in the world, but it's not top notch. at the end of the day, is the rubber really what's driving my answer? No, I doubt it has anything to do with it. I just, something about this figure really does it for me. So, Abdullah the Butcher is going to surpass Smash to move on to round 4, which with the last 6 figures would be my semifinals for the sake of this tournament. Next matchup is going to feature 2 absolutely incredible Galoobs popped up to LJN size. Sid Vicious versus Butch Reed. You know, guys like Barry Windham and Sid Vicious and Butch Reed, you know, Zeus and Abdullah the Butcher even, Dusty Rhodes, you know, guys like that. Those are figures I really want to see in the last 6 because those are guys I feel like have the best opportunities to win the whole thing. And knowing that one of 6 of my favorites are going to be eliminated right here, I mean, Smash. I've already said Smash to me was a bona fide victor of this tournament. And, you know, he gets knocked out in round 3. He could have probably beat a handful of the other characters that we've got left over. But luck of the draw, this doesn't make it any easier. So Butch Reed, actually looking at Butch Reed, I honestly think that this might be a better figure than Sid Vicious. I have always classified that Sid Vicious was like my number 1 Galoob and Butch Reed was my number 3, but I mean, fighting pose wise, you can do legitimate punches on both sides, solid clothesline, a real clothesline, and you know, he does have an absolute perfect body slam pose. I think if I do push Sid Vicious past Butch Reed in this tournament or in this round, I'm probably going to look at Sid Vicious as being my champion. Yeah, we got 2 rounds to go, but at this point, more color, more depth to the figure. Again, I love the glossiness that this figure offers, and much stronger rubber, perfect. With the overall rubber of this figure is bad. Still looks, you know, and it operates just like your original Galoob. I mean, as a rubber figure, I just think you can get so much more enjoyment, not only from rubber, but because of the size. I don't know, guys. This is there are no wrong answers from this point forward. Any one of these guys could win. And who would I choose? I don't want to make make the mistake of choosing someone simply because I might want them to win over someone that might deserve it. And I've already said, I think Sid Vicious, based on the figures in this tournament, is beatable. So, at nowhere do I say if he beats this guy. Does he legitimately win the whole tournament? Maybe. I mean, I'd probably give him a 15 to 20% chance of winning. When you look at the amount of figures, you know, 20% is astronomical. My head is telling me that Butch Reed is actually the better figure. But heart is going to win out once again. I'm sticking with Sid Vicious. And I think the choices from here on out, I think are going to be a little bit more simpler. Because as you go through a couple rounds, you've already said and talked about the figures enough to kind of know where you should be going with each of the matchups. You know, you can kind of estimate who's going to square off against who and who you would choose. There's no doubt that this is one of the greatest action figures ever made, period. And getting him as an LJN rubber figure just makes the figure even more perfect. And I think I'm going to have to do a new countdown of like my top 10, top 15 favorite Ram Treasure figures. Because originally I thought he was like somewhere around top 10 10 to 15, somewhere like that. Maybe, nah, about 10 to 15 sounds about right. But now I think he might be closer to like the top 7 or top 5 or something. This was tough. Sid Vicious defeats Butch Reed. So that was that matchup. Next one featured Brother Love as he squares off against Barry Windham. Barry Windham. And Brother Love. So again, here is another great opportunity for another Galoob to move forward. So this round is obviously, well, this video, because this video is only one round, or this round is only one video, it's very Galoob heavy. 7 figures, 4 of them are Galoob 2-ups in this round. That just shows you how amazing the Galoob 2-ups have been doing. I've already said, Barry Windham is one of the most perfect wrestling action figures ever. In a nutshell, he's just a Greg Valentine from LJN Original. Or was it Jerry Saggs or was it Brian Knobbs? Now, I think Brian Knobbs had his hands over his head, so I think Jerry Saggs is the other one from Original San Francisco that has this pose. In fact, I could probably make a video of like different toy lines that utilize certain poses the most often. This is one of the most utilized poses. And I remember when I first saw the Greg Valentine figure, it's like he was one of those figures I wanted to get for 2 reasons. The primary reason being, he's part of the LJN line. I want to complete the LJN line. Simple enough. He was also a character that I actually remember watching growing up, so, you know, that was another reason, of course, but the first reason says it all. It wasn't until I kind of used the figures a little bit to get a feel for the action figures that I realized how amazing that pose actually was. I just, based on look, I did not give it the praise or that it deserved. And because of said pose, Greg Valentine happens to be my all-time, had been my 5th all-time favorite figure. And when you're following that up with like, Big Boss Man and Ultimate Warrior, SD Jones, etc. Any one of those 3 figures could easily surpass Greg Valentine or any of the other 4 guys in the top 4, top 5. But this pose just means so much. And I've talked about this figure along with Sid Vicious. The way that they're set up, they just work beautifully together. We all know that Brother Love is not a wrestler. Kids, absolutely, I would recommend using him as a wrestler all day, every day, because he's just a good, fun pose. He doesn't have that Jim Brunzell thumb up, but, I mean, it's essentially a Jim Brunzell figure. And the simplicity of the figure may work against him, but there's really not a whole lot of detail to this either. But they did a perfect job in meshing this with the original, so that stands out. Another reason I really love the Brother Love figure, as I've said in previous videos, because this was the very last figure required to complete the original designs of Series 6 Black Card. At that time, Ram Treasures had already come out with Barbarian. They had already come out with the Bushwhackers. They came out with Bad News Brown. So yeah, getting this one in, it was an absolute necessity. And again, it is not a bad figure. When I was at like 14 figures or something, and technically I kind of split between 14 and 15, because in the video I only used 14 figures, but I actually had a Smash Demolition figure, and for whatever reason I didn't pull them off the shelf, the first time I made that type of video. And when I looked at this figure and I was looking at the others, I'm like, manager type, there's no way Brother Love is anywhere other than last place. And then I made the video, and I think he came in at like number 5 or something. So I got a much more better appreciation of this figure. Overall, the look is great. I mean, that's his suit, in a nutshell. And because I keep looking at him as a cake and everything. The face looks great. You know, that's his hairdo. I just really like the figure. And because of his segments, and I've talked about Hulk Hogan always getting his butt kicked every time he came on to the Brother Love show. And one of his, he was obviously a heel manager type, or like Jesse Ventura as commentary, or Jerry Lawler as commentary. You know, they're the bad guy commentators, whatever. And so whenever he had his segments, obviously he was always rooting for the evil Sergeant Slaughter, Brother Slaughter, etc. And, you know, Sergeant Slaughter comes into his segment, you know, hating on Americans, and this was just before his official turncoat skit played out. I like this figure a lot. And Barry Windham, as much as I love the figure, I don't know if he necessarily defeats Sid Vicious, right? I've always said that Sid Vicious was a better figure, or the one I enjoyed more than Barry Windham. So, with that being said, could I remove Barry Windham so that I'm allowed to keep Brother Love in for another round? Maybe Brother Love is the one that takes Sid Vicious out of this tournament. I don't know. I've said that any one of these figures could win. And this is such a good one that I'm having a lot of trouble putting him down. But I am going to go with Barry Windham. Yes, he's a wrestler, and he has his intended purpose of being a wrestler. This is an elite figure from Ram Treasures. One of their absolute best, no doubt. I just think that Barry Windham and Sid Vicious in the last two standing could be a strong possibility. It could be Sid Vicious and Zeus. It could be Barry Windham and Abdul the Butcher. You just never know, not until you get through all the matches and, you know, figure things out. So, Brother Love goes down, and Barry Windham moves on. This one right here, this is the one I've been dreading. Absolutely dreading. And it's going to feature Dusty Rhodes versus Barbarian. I think as difficult as any of the first matches have been so far, this might be quite possibly the most difficult decision of the entire tournament. Even when I only have two figures left and I gotta choose the winner, I think that might be a little bit easier, because at that point I should have a general idea of who I think is going to win, or who I know or want to win. When I've talked about guys that have a bona fide chance of winning this entire tournament, these guys are got to be near the very top. I'm talking 1-2 of the best opportunity. You know, Brother Love, does he win the tournament? It's possible, but he wouldn't be at the very top. He'd probably be more towards the bottom. I think Smash would have been further at the bottom. Jerry Lawler, a phenomenal figure I love. I still think he'd be further at the bottom, but if the right matches play out, you could see them in the finals, and you could see them win the whole thing. Arn Anderson might be towards the bottom. Abdullah the Butcher, I kind of felt like Abdullah was like right in the middle or towards the bottom, but you know, he won his match, and he won against the good one, so it just goes to show you just never know. I could go off of longevity, saying that I've had Barbarian longer, so I've had more time to appreciate the figure, but I don't know, man. Powers of Pain, I know them, I know the name, I remember the characters, but they don't exactly have the most nostalgic memories from childhood. I mean, like I said, I kind of think of wrestlers in the time of Hasbro, and we had Warlord, but we didn't have Barbarian, and I don't know whatever happened to Barbarian afterwards. What other gimmick he may have come up with, I don't know. Obviously, I've spent a lot of time over the last couple years watching a lot of old videos and, YouTube videos and whatnot as well. Kind of trying to get some of those memories that I had from childhood back. And that way, when I make these videos, I have something a little bit extra to add. But even when you learn something, either through research or through watching videos and stuff, you never retain the information. It's hard, I guess, especially with my mind. I kept saying that Barbarian was probably, I think in the last several videos, if I had to choose, Barbarian may have been at the very top of my list as the guys that the greatest potential to win the whole thing. He's got one of the most amazing fighting poses ever. We just saw Butch Reed, who we put down, and I haven't picked up the Mr. T yet, but again, one of my all-time favorite poses. Nothing wrong with it. I think Barbarian might actually be a better figure than Warlord, because Warlord, his hands are like this, At least Barbarian has his arms out a little bit, so I think if you're looking for a playable action figure, Warlord is great. Barbarian is pristine in that respect. I think I do like the Warlord's face paint just a little bit better than the Barbarian here. Pants design, very simple. I mean, this is, him. I don't ever remember this guy wearing shorts or trunks in his matches. It was always pants, so I think that, and this man has an absolute killer beard too, so every time I try to get my beard, like if I get my beard down to like here or something, my wife makes me cut it. She hates it. I absolutely love the look of this figure. I really don't know what more I can add to this character. Who was it? Was it Demolition? Yeah, I think it was Demolition. Like, I remember, I think it was like the Survivor Series or something, and I have to watch those tapes to actually go back and refresh my memory. But I think Mr. Fuji, when he was managing Demolition, and they kind of like turned on him, or he turned on them, and so Demolition turned face and whatnot, and Mr. Fuji became the new manager of Powers of Pain. And when I talk about my first purchases from Eric Boyer, the first purchase I ever made from on eBay was a Terry Funk, and it came with a championship belt, and it came with his hat. And then later on, maybe a few weeks later, I purchased my first set of customs from him, which included that Ultimate Warrior figure, which included his version of Powers of Pain. And what else did I get? I also got a Mr. Fuji. I think he customized, or no, it may have been just a regular Mr. Fuji with Kane. And I want to say Mr. Perfect was the other one. And I'm almost sure it was Mr. Perfect. So, and from that point forward, I mean, half my customs, it feels like, have come from him. Dusty Rhodes. I mean, I've always said he had a very similar pose to that of Hulk Hogan from Series 1. Is that true? It's similar, but not quite. Hogan was never, like, a heavy set guy. But when you look at the Hogan from Series 1, where he's, like, extra thin, and then you look at, like, the Series 5 Hogan, where, again, he's not fat. He's not, like, they don't make him, like, super small. So I really love the fact that you get a little bit of a heftier Dusty Rhodes type compared to, that thin Hogan. So the pose may not be identical, but it's close enough. The only downside, it's kind of like your Abdullah the Butcher in a sense. Abdullah the Butcher has that nice arm out, but he's got that little right hand in for like his little jabs. And you kind of get those little small jabs from Dusty Rhodes as well. And I'm going to pull this out real quick because he's sitting right there. So, I'll take a look at the Dusty Rhodes Hasbro, right? The way that his arm is bent like this, with like that Bob Orton, fist to the rear type of deal, I'm okay with that pose. Because, and this one right here, it fits beautifully. Because to me, Dusty Rhodes isn't really like a puncher, To me, he's an elbower. Like most guys grab the guys by the top of the head and punch him to the face. He doesn't do that a lot. You see him like he'll sit there and he'll elbow them to the face. It's when I see this, I'm like, that's fantastic. That is great creation of this figure. And with the white and gold of the boots, you know, they do kind of mix color throughout the figure. So even though he's basically just boots and trunks, those added colors throughout makes the figure pop. It's Dusty Rhodes. It's a cartoony Dusty Rhodes, but Dusty Rhodes nonetheless. It's bulky that I love. It's got an incredible fighting pose. And he's an absolute legend. I mean, what more can you say about Dusty Rhodes, right? I just don't know if he's the best that Random Treasures has to offer. I think he's an absolute elite figure. I keep saying a top 5 because I don't know where I'd put him. I could put him at number 1. But technically, I could do a countdown and he could come in at number 13. You just don't really know. You're making your best guess, your best estimate of where you think these guys would fit in. I already know that Barbarian is a top 10 figure. I had him at number 1 my first time I did that countdown. Then I had him at number 2 behind Sid Vicious when I did the second one. And then he kind of dropped to number 10. But that was just more because of I like color schemes and stuff of other figures like Legion of Doom and Demolition and whatnot. But he was still, again, one of the most incredible pieces. And that's why I think that Barbarian is a figure that's going to give you your best opportunity to win this entire tournament. A little bit darker. Does the skin tone mash up too well? Not necessarily, but it's okay. Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes, because he's a heftier guy, like the Dino Bravo figure, I kind of feel like that gives you, a little bit bulkier, rubber. Man, I don't know where to go with this one. All right, I'm going to choose. And even though I think I might be making the right choice, or at least the right choice for me, deep down, I'm still going to be hurting like I made the wrong choice. So, I am going to go with Dusty Rhodes. Barbarian, I think, legitimately is very possibly the greatest figure from Ram Treasures, and me putting him down right now in round 3, to me, it sucks because it doesn't make sense. That's why I want to move away from random drawings. I want to be able to lay the figures out, be like, you know what? This does not deserve to go to round 2. This doesn't deserve to go round 2, and just kind of do it like that. And then take the figures that are left over and just kind of put them against an opponent. Any opponent will do. And kind of keep doing that each round. And that would kind of give you a better idea of, your number 1 favorite, your number 2 favorite, etc. So that the 2 best figures do end up in the finals. But Dusty Rhodes is going to defeat Barbarian. Alright, everybody. The last matchup. And I really don't need to read off the names, but Jerry Lawler, Zeus, and Arn Anderson. The great thing is, because we're selecting 2 figures to move forward, it's going to make it a lot easier. And this is arguably the only one that I feel like is an extremely easy choice. You guys know what figures I gravitate towards the most, so I'm pretty sure you already know who I've chosen to eliminate for this matchup. But I'm still going to talk about it a little bit because I just don't want to just end things abruptly like that. So one of these figures may not have defeated anybody else that was left over in this round. But we're going to talk about him anyways. Jerry Lawler. The Memphis, Tennessee icon. I used to remember, for whatever reason, I think somebody slapped one of those paper Burger King hats on his head, and then one day crowd used to always just shout out Burger King, and it used to drive this man absolutely insane. I mean, I'm sure it was just all an act and everything. I'm pretty sure he could have cared less and whatnot. It's like slapping a yellow shirt or the blue shirt on Hakeem and calling him the African Prince or whatever it was, the African Dream. How embarrassing that must have been for the one-man gang to go from this nice biker look to that fake gimmick crap. And I'm sure if you were to ask him today, he'd probably just look at you like, you know what, it's a paycheck. At the end of the day, what pays the bills is all that matters. And so I feel the same way about, Jerry Lawler in the WWF. You could put up with that because, you're supposed to be a bad guy and you're supposed to be hated. And if you're like the $1 Million Man or whatnot and you're doing your job to perfection, people are going to hate you. And that's what you want. You don't want to be loved as a bad guy. Sorry, Ted DiBiase, but I did love him as a bad guy. Jerry Lawler, because, again, he was already an older wrestler at that point. And, he wasn't some young 25-year-old superstar coming in. He wasn't like, having Shawn Michaels first come in or whatnot. And even Shawn Michaels and Marty were, like, kicked out of the WWF after, like, a day. But, still, I really would have loved to have seen something real. Like what you get out of Memphis Wrestling with Jerry Lawler. And you got very few matches that were like that. And it's a shame because it's like, even Bobby Heenan, manager, a guy that goes running for the hills every time someone comes after him, all of a sudden gets thrust into a match, and, he not only held his own, but actually won the match, if I recall. And why couldn't, Jerry Lawler have a lot more pushes like that as well? Again, it's another cartoony look. I'm accustomed, having grown up in the era of Hasbro, I'm accustomed to the cartoon faces of your characters, of the wrestling figures. So that really doesn't really help me that much. The skin tone is perfect. I love the glossiness of the figure. The pointer finger, I don't like that. If it was closed fist, it would be much more solid. But overall, incredible look. Arn Anderson. You're just taking the Arn Anderson Galoob and doubling the size. No qualms with this figure, except my personal choice to keep the stock photo color scheme. I hate the fact that I chose black and gray. To this day, it still irks me that I did that. I would have preferred to keep the original Series 1 red and white color scheme with this figure. It would have made this figure pop so much more, and I think I would have even loved this figure even more. Now, this figure has made it to round 3 and is part of the last 11 figures standing. So there has to be something positive about the figure, right? Now, if we were just simply going off of what I mentioned earlier and kind of at the start of the tournament, just choosing figures that that weren't going to win, that weren't going to do so well, and just kind of eliminating them off the bat. When I've done my favorite LJN tournament, because I was going off of the way that the figures are situated on the shelf, I look at the shelf and I say, okay, Big John Studd is sitting next to Hogan. Iron Sheik is sitting next to Jimmy Snuka. It's Andre, Studd, Hogan, Sheik, Snuka, right? Well, first match would be Andre versus Studd. That makes no sense because those are two perfect figures. What about the next match? Hogan. Okay, still another perfect figure. So what I did in those matches was kind of like put those three up against Snuka and Sheik and Roddy, etc. Because I knew those guys would never win, right? I think Roddy Piper would actually move on to the next round automatically because he had so many customs. I should have done something like that with these figures for these tournaments, but I really, to some extent, I love the blind drawing, and to some extent, I absolutely hate it because of matches like you might put like Zeus against Dusty Rhodes as an example, or you might have like a Sid Vicious versus Barry Windham type of deal, and it's only round 1. That type of scenario. Whereas, I don't know, what's a bad one? Imagine Ron Simmons going up against Macho Man. Okay, let's say I choose Ron Simmons to move on to round 2. And Ron Simmons faces Ivan Putski. Suddenly, one of the worst action figures ever created is sitting in round 3. But, that's just an example. If they took the Arn Anderson and gave him the correct colors, it would have been a much better figure. Because this figure is like a punch-down figure, that kind of bothers me as well. But among Galoob, still one of the better figures nonetheless. And Zeus. At this point, I don't even think I'm going to even talk about him anymore, because I think everything that has to be said has been said. And you know what? He is just, again, he's just an Arn Anderson figure. And it's kind of nice that Arn Anderson and Zeus kind of end up together at the very end, so you could kind of display them side by side. The one thing I like about this a little bit better, instead of the fists, you know, going down like this, like Arn Anderson, Zeus is like this, but same exact pose, though. It's also kind of like he's kind of posing, like he's like, you know, doing like a little muscle pose or something. Let's see. So, Zeus I already like better than Arn Anderson. That's not even a question about that. So, it's going to boil down to Jerry Lawler and Arn Anderson. If Arn Anderson defeats Jerry Lawler, then Jerry Lawler will have to face Zeus to see basically what happens. But Arn Anderson will not defeat any of the... Literally nobody in this round Arn Anderson would have defeated. Not one single character. So this, again, to me was like literally the easiest match. Now, if it had come down to having to get rid of two guys and not just one, this would have sucked right here. But I'm happy being able to move Zeus and Jerry Lawler to round 4. Because round 4 is going to be one video. It's going to be 6 figures, 3 matchups. I'm going to make it... the last 6 are technically going to be the semifinals in my mind. So I will make one more video for the semifinals for round 4. And then finals will be its own video as well for round 5. With the last 3 men standing. And, shoot. I have no clue who the last 3 will be. It's gonna be based on who squares off against who in the next round, but there are literally no clear-cut winners. I'm still sulking over this one. Alright guys, that is it for this video, and at almost 50 minutes, I'm sorry about the extra long video, but I know some folks, I've been asked by a lot of people to make longer videos, so hopefully a 50-minute video isn't too much to handle all at once. And of course, you can always pause and come back to it at a later time. You don't have to watch a 50-minute video straight through, so this was fun. Disappointed in how many great figures I lost this round, but you know it was going to happen. So guys, thank you so much for watching as always. Please let me know what you think. Actually put in there who you think is going to win the tournament. I may come back down here for another episode, or may not, I don't know. Otherwise I'll just keep making one video a day and post them the following day as per usual. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Talk to you later.